Eritua no to obunaru fata Aniro anna fatadam. Eritua no to obunaru fata Aniro anna fatadam.
Standing on my front steps was a father and his 5-year-old son, and his son was in pain. They didn't say anything to me. Dad just lifted his son's leg to show me a fish hook stuck into the bottom of his son's foot. The fish hook had gone in and then popped back out. You could see both the top and the bottom of the fish hook, but the body of it was buried deep in his son's foot. "Mawo," I said, "wait here." I went inside the house and tried to compose myself. What was I supposed to do? I don't know how to get a fish hook out of somebody's foot. And I hated thinking about the extra pain that I was about to cause this kid to try to get the fish hook out. But could I even do it? That burr on the tip would stop me from pulling it out the way it came, but the ring on the other side would be extremely painful to push all the way through. Do I slice the skin with the scalpel first so I don't have to tear out the flesh when I try to pull it out? No, it was in too deep to dig it out. Either way, that's lots of blood. Started to feel dizzy. Was there some sort of trick to this? There was a trick. And before I got the second medical glove on, I remembered. The trick was that my coworker Clint was here. I'll go ask Clint. I came back down the stairs and told the father and son, "Let's go to Clint's house." On the 2-minute walk over to Clint's house, I decided, instead of asking Clint what to do, I'll just ask him to show me. Clint grew up out west, chopping trees, fishing, hunting. His childhood left him much better prepared than I for living in the jungle. He fixed our boat motor when it broke, fixed our lawnmower. He could fix anything, really, and build anything, too. Let's see if Clint knew what to do with the fish hook. We knocked on Clint's door. I smiled and said, "They need your help with this." Clint chuckled, knowing that I was wussing out, and he disappeared into his house briefly. Clint came back with wire cutter scissors. I detected no stress or raised blood pressure in him, and now that Clint was about to deal with it, my own blood pressure started to return back down to normal. In about 3 seconds, Clint cut the fish hook in half with the wire cutters just under the sharp of the hook. The sharp piece fell off. Then he grabbed the ring that still held some fishing line on it, and he pulled it out easily, barely a wince from the little boy. Clint went back inside, gave the kid some antibiotic cream, a Band-Aid. Done. Clint, what a punk, I thought. I was about to spend the rest of my afternoon just mutilating this kid's foot with a scalpel, and Clint fixed it in 3 seconds. But after my frustration subsided, I walked back home, thanking God for giving me a teammate like Clint. When a fan in our house once died, I spent all afternoon rewiring a new one, but then it wouldn't turn on. Clint came over and had it going in 10 minutes. His wife, Ashlyn, too, she was just as helpful. Almost daily, Ashlyn was patching machete wounds, giving malaria tests, handing out medicine, and if that work stressed her out, we never saw it. We were thankful because that sort of thing was really challenging for Lakin and I. But even Clint's skills and resourcefulness were sometimes no match for the Wabaku culture. When our two families moved into Wabaku, we brought with us a large water bladder that could hold an immense amount of water. I don't know how many liters it could hold, but it was about 20 feet long, 5 feet wide, and when it was full, it was about 2 to 3 feet tall. Together, our families spent thousands on this water bladder. We shipped it from Australia, and Clint installed it as a gift to Wabaku. So now, instead of drinking the muddy river water, the whole village could have clean water from the runoff of our house. We put the bladder underneath my family's house, and our gutters would fill it every time it rained. Clint dug the trench, laid the pipe, installed a faucet so anybody could come at any time and fill up their cooking pots or cups. No pump needed, just pressure-fed, clean water. It was perfect. Everybody was happy. But there's an aspect of Wabaku culture that we hadn't learned yet, and we saw it early one morning. Terence was storming around his own property around his house with a bush knife, yelling at everybody and cutting down his own banana trees. Oraima ana bredom, I asked somebody, "What's he doing that for?" "Oh, he's mad at his brother," I was told, "so he's chopping his banana trees." Okay, but why doesn't he cut his brother's banana trees then? I asked, kind of confused. And I didn't get an answer, which means the answer is, that's just what we do. Later, an angry woman would smash all of her own cooking pots with a hammer and throw her own mangled pots into the river. Why? Because she was angry with somebody else from a different village. It seems silly until you understand this. The ancestors taught that disharmony in the village brings sickness and death. When there are heavies or issues, then everybody is vulnerable to attacks from the evil spirits. But when there are no heavies, the unity of the village keeps the evil spirits away. So if you're angered, you throw a big fit. You destroy whatever you can until everybody rushes to fix it, lest we're all in danger from the evil spirits. So you're destroying your own things is a threat to the community. It disrupts the harmony. That's what happened to Wabaku's clean water. Somebody got angry and slashed the pipe that fed the water bladder's faucet. Now the broken pipe emptied all the water onto the ground and the bladder stayed empty. So Clint fixed the pipe and then made it harder to sabotage. Everybody had clean drinking water again. For a while. Then one morning I walked down to see the water bladder laying flat and empty again. It had rained just the night before. What happened? Upon closer inspection, I saw a slit through the top of the bladder's thick vinyl, and then an exit wound out through the bottom. Our expensive, less than a year-old gift of clean water to the village was toast. Someone had stabbed it through with a bush knife, ruining it for everybody. I was angry. Clean water was important, and we spent tons of cash on this thing. Who would just stab a hole in it? Clint considered patching it, but there was way too much water pressure in the bladder to patch. It was destroyed. When we found out who was responsible, it was just a village guy angry about somebody stealing food from his garden. So he stabbed a hole in the water bladder so that everybody would notice his anger and appease him. Ooh, it made my blood boil. We didn't even consider replacing it. We couldn't afford another one, and second, we weren't going to teach the village that we were okay with this kind of tantrum. If you throw a tantrum and get what you want as a kid and throw a tantrum and get what you want as an adult, you learn that it's just an effective strategy. But when a whole community does this, it makes that community a difficult powder keg of a place to live. Why is Wabaku still in the Stone Age and our neighbors in Australia first world? There are probably lots of reasons: isolation, individualized languages, small communities, lack of specialization. But I think this behavior is also high on the list. To me, the realization became clear. It would take more than Clint's handyman skills to transform this community. Another one of the enemy's monsters stepped into the light, and I had no idea how to fight it. How could we possibly do battle with this self-sabotaging behavior passed down from their ancestors, deeply woven into the fabric of their society? Whenever the village got something nice, someone's tantrum would be its end. That's how many of our soccer balls, volleyball nets were destroyed. Someone gets upset about the game, chops it with a bush knife. There, now nobody can play. The pattern is sickening. And this behavior was just completely accepted. That's just what we do. Imagine if every time you got upset, you were taught to throw away all the food in your pantry, or withdraw all the money in your bank account and then burn it in a fire. Or you didn't get the promotion at work, so you go and burn the building down. In a culture without police or a way to hold people accountable for this, nothing can hold this behavior in check. The only way to stop it is to give that person what they want. The bigger the tantrum, the faster you get what you want. What if your whole community acted that way? Yeah, so you don't read about this in National Geographic. As the newcomers, the ones who brought good things like clean water to Wabaku, we were often the target of these tantrums. So when someone would get angry, they would try to destroy our fuel shed that held our boat motor and fuel inside. Or they would go under our house and cut out our wires. Because if I can't get what I want, then I'll sabotage our missionaries so nobody gets the good things that the missionaries bring. And I'm not calling these self-sabotaging behaviors tantrums to belittle my Wabaku friends. This is the culture that they inherited. They were taught to act this way from the first time they yelled and screamed as children and were given exactly as they wanted. But instead of growing out of this behavior, the adults in their lives continued to model it, but on a larger scale. At its root, this self-sabotaging behavior is selfishness. But what were we supposed to do? How do you even begin to fight this? How do you teach a different way, correct this behavior which would benefit the whole community? I decided that we couldn't. Nothing we could do or say would ever change someone's selfishness. And what authority did we have here to correct anybody's behavior? Not enough. Plus, correcting Wabaku's behavior wasn't why we came anyway, not even on the list. We came to tell stories. Yahweh's stories. Only Yahweh himself, their creator, would have the authority to change their hearts, to deal with this selfishness. And not just Wabaku's selfishness, but my own. We were eager for the day when Wabaku would get to hear God's word in their own language.